This video is sponsored by NordVPN. Using a VPN opens up a world of possibilities in regards to gaining access to additional content. Interested in playing a closed beta, but need to have a certain country's IP address? Can't watch a video or movie because it's region locked? The gentleman is crazy good, by the way. Live in a country that may be censoring the internet? Protect your digital assets from scammers, thieves, evil corporations, or governments intent on censoring what you see. Be safe and secure on your ultra-fast connection and enjoy uninterrupted streaming and use it on up to 6 devices. NordVPN is becoming the one-stop shop for incredible services intent on protecting you and your online activity. Threat protection neutralizes cyber threats before they can do any real damage to your device. Manage all of your passwords in one place, knowing they're safe and secure with NordPass. Browse the internet without borders or restrictions. Get your exclusive NordVPN deal here at nordvpn.com/allthingsdnd. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Now what you're here for. Time when our DM has had enough with a terrible bard. Hi everyone, All Things D&D is back with 2 stories about good DMing and terrible DMing. Being the DM is a tough job. Wrangling gross bards like our first DM can be really challenging. And then being an open-minded, friendly DM is apparently too much to ask for our second DM. Which DM are you? Tell us after listening to these 2 stories. Be me playing as a chaotic good female half-elf ranger, 5e. DM seems to be a pretty chill dude. His name will be Alex. The party is a mixed bag. Neutral evil male Goliath fighter. His name will be Hans. Chaotic neutral male gnome wizard. His name will be Roan. So far so good. Chaotic good male human bard. His name will be Calvin. Realize I'm the only guy role-playing as a female. Realize that Calvin is playing as a certified horny bard. Every session he spams charm on anything vaguely female. Alex makes it so that charming people is an illegal act to counteract Calvin's shenanigans. Somehow the first couple of sessions don't have much RP, mostly combat and quests, so Calvin hasn't immediately realized that my Legolas lookalike is a female, and so the first 2 sessions go smoothly, without any sexual assault committed against my character. Also, Calvin's first character dies in session 1, so he makes a new horny bard. 3rd session commences. We finally get some proper roleplay. Alex does a pretty good job too. We're teleported through this magical wormhole that leads us to this abandoned fortress. We meet this imprisoned godlike spirit that I can communicate with because I can talk in Celestial. The spirit gives us a quest to liberate it from its imprisonment, and that it will reward us for all our generosity. Hell yeah! While Alex narrates what the spirit says, Calvin checks my character sheet just to check if I can speak with the spirit. He then found out that my character is female. As soon as we're done talking to the spirit, Calvin asks Alex if he can roll to charm my character. At this point it surprises me because I was so focused on the RP that I completely forgot about Calvin. Then it hits me that when he was checking my sheet that he saw my character's gender. Alex tells us both to roll. Calvin rolls like shit. I roll an 18 on the wisdom save. Not today, Calvin. After Calvin fails the charm spell, he immediately asks Alex if he can roll to seduce me. At this point I was overwhelmed that I had just avoided Calvin's charm spell, and that now he would basically try the same thing again. To say the least, I was not happy with how Calvin was acting towards my character. Calvin fails again, but this time it was much closer. We were out in the middle of nowhere, so there isn't anyone to arrest Calvin. We start exploring the fortress. The entire party rolls an investigation to find loot. Nothing. We then proceed to explore the land surrounding the fortress. We're trapped on an island with a few abandoned lighthouses with some fishing rods and rope in them. There's also some trees around. We set up camp for the night and sleep. Alex proceeds to end the session, then and there. See y'all next session. Next session would be our final session. I don't know why I put up with Calvin's blatant harassment for so long, but I did do something before the final session with Hans. I made a deal with him that if Calvin attempted to charm me, that he would save me from him. Hans agreed because he didn't want to see my character being victimized by this idiot. Very ironic that an evil character needs to save a good character from another good character. Next session begins. After we wake up, we make a raft to get back to the mainland. About an in-game hour later, we make it to unknown lands. Once we make it off our raft, we encounter this dense dark forest blocking our path towards getting inlands. Everyone agrees that we should try to go through the forest. Once we're in, Calvin tries to charm my character again. This time, he succeeds. Hans immediately grapples my character, picks me up and runs away with me from Calvin. Alex had originally set up an encounter there for all of us to be ambushed. The monstrous flying creatures attack both me, Hans, and Roan. Roan was on Hans' shoulders shooting spells there. Alex allowed Roan to be carried on Hans' shoulders because Roan was a small gnome. We successfully defeat the creatures and all level up, except Calvin. Calvin is angry that he also didn't get to level up with us. Alex explains that since Calvin wasn't helping the rest of the party fighting the creatures, that he shouldn't gain anything. Calvin backs down grumpily. We make it through the forest and reach civilization. Calvin immediately begins charming everyone and everything he can get away with. Not a lot, since he's immediately arrested and imprisoned. We enjoy a bit of time without Calvin's interruptions. Unfortunately, Hans wanted to disguise himself so that he could sneak into the city's brothel and have loads of sex without paying. Hans rolls low on deception and is immediately arrested and sent to jail with Calvin. Now it's only me and Roan. We form a plan to rescue both Hans and Calvin. I try to do it first because I have the best stealth. Critical fail. I'm caught and imprisoned. Roan tries to free us by using invisibility. He is detected by a guard who has detect magic. Everyone is now jailed. What do we do now? While we're in jail, Calvin tries again to charm me. As Calvin tries to charm, he's simultaneously hit by a magical baton from the magical guard. Calvin is now unconscious. Once Calvin regains consciousness, we then proceed to devise a plan that would let us escape and recover our items. The plan works and we're free once again. We make way for another city because we're wanted in the previous city. Once we make it there, Calvin once again tries to charm every female he can spot. This is where Alex has had enough of Calvin's shit. Alex proceeds to introduce a level 20 bounty hunter with guns. He's after our party, especially that troublemaking bard. The bounty hunter proceeds to TPK the entire party. After that, Alex snaps out at Calvin for ruining the experience for both him and the rest of the party. Alex then tells us that we can continue with the ghost campaign, where we can try to revive ourselves and continue the story. Calvin just seems to make an audible groan then drops out. Roan and Hans are both angry at Alex, asking why they needed to die so suddenly. I'm also pissed off and state that was blatantly unfair for everyone. Stuff gets kinda blurry from what happens here, until we decide that it's not worth continuing the campaign. And now for an example of what not to do when trying to get people interested in D&D. So my first time playing D&D, a friend at work asked me if I wanted to play, and my response was, "What's D&D?" He explained the concept and had me come over on a Saturday to roll a character for a Sunday game. That he would DM. On Saturday, I show up and end up rolling a monk. He also loaned me a 3.5 PHB so I could familiarize myself with how the game works that night, and be ready for the game the next day. I show up for the game on Sunday, and am treated like I'm a shitty veteran player. I get heavy sighs and insulted for not having actions ready on my turn, and not understanding how combat works, and was told that it was unacceptable that I had to borrow dice, instead of bringing my own. I explained that it was my first time playing, and the response I got was that I had been given the PHB the night before, so I should know what I am doing if I had bothered to read it. Also, I couldn't ask anything out of character at all. There was no system for out-of-character conversation. Keeping in mind that I had only learned of the existence of D&D like 3 days prior to this, so asking questions like, what is a bugbear, or which dice do I roll for persuasion, I would get in-character responses to those questions. You're a monk and don't know what a bugbear is? What kind of shit monastery did you train at? And why would you play with dice right now when we're trying to talk to the king? I also had my player agency taken from me at every turn, since I didn't know what I was doing. 2 specific examples. First one, we open a chest with armor and weapons in it, and we're all told that we each take something from the chest. DM goes around the table asking each player what they want. You wanted a 2-handed sword? Okay, here's a +1 greatsword, and here's your +1 studded leather, etc. He gets to me, the monk, who's wearing no armor, and gets bonuses for not using weapons, and I tell him that no, I'm good. He makes me take a weapon anyway, despite my protests that I would never use it. Mine was a homebrew Tekko Kagi, and as a monk I still had to take the penalties for using a weapon, so still doing less damage than empty-handed. After he gets all the way around the table, he says that the weapons and armor are all cursed, and they are now our most prized possession. We would rather die than part with our new item, and we will suffer damage any time we have the chance to use the item and don't. Second time was that we ran into something. I don't remember what she was and couldn't ask what she was anyway. I just remember that she was evil, very powerful, and apparently so hot that we all wanted to do what she told us to, because of how hot and powerful she was. Anyway, when she first walked up, she asked a question and I answered it. She ran up and smacked me because I dared talk to her without her specifically addressing me. So I'm like, fuck it. I pull out my Tekko Kagi and strap it on my hand. The DM looks at me and says, no you don't. She can kill you in 1 turn. Just sit there and shut up and I'll tell you when you can do something. At the end of session 1, we have just enough XP to level up. We level up our character and leave. I see him at work the next week and tell him that I don't think D&D is for me. His response was that everyone thought that I did great for my first time playing, and they were excited for me to come back and play again next weekend. Me, surprised Pikachu face. So like most stories on this sub, I go back even though I shouldn't have. At some point that week, the DM does something stupid at work. It's a very minor thing. I don't even remember what it was, but it was enough that me and a couple of other guys joked with him about it. Again, it was nothing, and getting teased for minor things like this was normal among us at work, him included, so it wasn't like he was being singled out. It was just normal workplace banter that he also takes part in when others screw up. I show up for the game on Sunday. We sit down and he asks me for my character sheet. I hand it over. He looks for about 30 seconds and says, "Take your dex down from an 18 to a 16, taking your +4 to a +3. Also subtract 500 XP, making you level 1 again." He hands me my character sheet back and watches me make the changes, also walking through taking my character back down to level 1, subtracting HP, etc. After I finish, he looks me in the eye and says, "Maybe that'll teach you not to run your mouth at work." He was watching for my reaction, so I just shrugged and said okay. I could tell he was pissed that I didn't get upset about him screwing with my character. I didn't care because it didn't even feel like my character at this point. It felt more like I was playing an NPC for him. My two examples of losing player agency above, the first example happened in the first session, and the second example happened in the second session. Shortly after just sit there and shut up and I'll tell you when you can do something, we took a break. I went out to my car and left. Monday he told me it was messed up that I just left like that, and me not being there screwed up his encounters, so I was kicked from the group. I responded by joking about his work screw up the week prior. I made copies of my monk character sheet, and anytime he tried to tease me about work after that, I would just give him a copy of the character sheet and ask him which stats to reduce. This actually got the attention of another coworker, who I ended up playing D&D with, after a lot of convincing, and actually enjoying the game. Seriously, don't be so creepy if you're playing a bard, and never be like this terrible DM. Please let us know what you think and comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, All Things D&D. Our videos are posted every 5 days, so stay tuned for more amazing Dungeons & Dragons content.